It's good to see everybody today. We've missed each other. We've got a lot of things going on in our lives, and I appreciate everyone taking the time to be here for today's meeting. Today is the meeting one of the interim session for VMAP. Senator Reed, would you lead us in the pledge, please, sir? And Representative Wesley, will you lead us in the prayer?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, we just thank you for the privilege and opportunity of being here today. Lord, we lift our great nation up before you. And Lord, we ask you, Lord, for your protection, your guidance, Lord, and especially upon our President, God, as he just leads us. And Lord, I thank you for this, for our chairman today. I ask you to just lead and guide and direct all of us that's here on this committee for our veterans and military and affairs and all of our public protection, all of our first responders. And Lord, we ask you to just lead and guide us, Lord, in the decisions that we make. And Lord, we ask you, Lord, for your guidance throughout this state, for this year. Lord, we thank you and give you praise, and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right, I believe everybody's received the agendas and material related to today's meeting. I would ask that folks that are here, please, if you have your cell phone, if you would please put those on silent. At this time, I'd like to call roll.
Senator Berg. Present. Senator Boswell. Senator Higdon. Senator Nunn. Senator Reed.
Here.
Senator Richardson.
Here.
Senator Smith. Senator Tishner. Senator Wilson. Senator Yates. Representative Blanton.
Present.
Representative Bratcher.
Present.
Representative Dossett. Representative Freeland.
Present.
Representative Fugit.
Here.
Representative Gooch.
Here.
Representative Hart.
Here.
Representative Johnson.
Here.
Representative Lewis. Representative Maddox.
Here.
Representative Massaroni. Here. Representative Moore.
Here.
Representative Proctor.
Present.
Representative Roberts.
Here.
Representative Sharp.
Present.
Representative Stevenson. Representative Tackett Lafferty.
Here.
Representative Thomas.
Present.
Representative Wesley. Here. Vice Chair McCool. Co-Chair McCool. Co-Chair Deneen.
Here. Have a quorum? We do have a quorum to conduct business. At this time, we're going to adjust the agenda just a little bit, folks. We do have an announcement that Representative Moore, if you would please make that announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Veterans Caucus will be convening at the conclusion of this meeting at Annex Room 125. Excited to have lunch provided for our legislators here by the Fisher House, a great organization. We'll have the opportunity to hear from Eastern Kentucky University and some of their programs for their veteran student population, as well as Queens Lake Horse Farm and the services they provide to veterans and their families in Central Kentucky. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. At this time, we also have on the agenda today the recognition of distinguished veterans, and if those folks would make their way to the front table, please.
Today it's an honor, committee members, to be here. Senator Higdon and myself, we wanted to recognize Joe Masterson. He is a wonderful veteran in the Bardstown community. He has served many years as an honorable veteran of the Army and a longtime supporter of Kentucky veterans. Mr. Masterson served his country with great valor, including the Berlin and Cuban Missile Crisis, and for 37 months in Germany. As a civilian, he has continued to serve his country by acting as a tireless advocate for veterans in the Nelson County community. Among his many accomplishments, He has served as post commander for American Legion Post 121, and he sits on the board for the Bardstown's Veteran Park. He's also had a critical role in serving as as a member of the Military Museum in Bardstown and the Civil War Museum in Bardstown. He served as JC president for several years and maintains a stellar reputation among his colleagues and his fellow citizens as a man of tremendous warmth, integrity, and vision. Mr. Matterson has consistently served the interest of his country and his community, both as a soldier and a civilian. And I just want to thank Mr. Matterson for coming out tonight. He's a wonderful member of our Nelson County community, and we really appreciate everything he does. So,
Thank you.
wanna say
Thank you,
anything?
Representative.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to be part of
Make
this.
sure that button is pushed there and the light's on for him. Thank
It's
you.
been a pleasure to be part of this program, especially helping the veterans. It's awful heartwarming when you are a service officer and you see a veteran get his dues, like out in the VA hospital. I can't say enough how good they are down there to the VA hospital. They're excellent people, and also their clinics are excellent in Louisville. But I would like to thank Candy and Jim for this award and all the state representatives. And I want to thank my family. My wife, Renata, couldn't be here today due to her disability, but I do have my daughter, Suzette Rapier, and my son, Ed Masterson, and grandson, Nick Rapier, and grandson, TJ Masterson. Without them, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I'm extremely pleased that I've been able to have relatively good health and still be around at 84 years old. So let's see if I got any more notes and I'll get out of the way. I'd like to especially thank the American Legion Post 121 for having trusted me when I was service officer for 12 years, finance officer for 2 years, adjutant, and also commander in 2023. So it's been a real blessing, and thank you all very much. Thanks, Candy.
Can I get a picture?
Thank you.
I've always felt this is one of the best parts of our the things that this committee does is recognizing those that have served not only while in active duty but also to their communities afterwards. Especially honored to recognize Mr. Masterson and all he's done for his fellow soldiers as a veteran. We appreciate his dedication to this country, and we're so proud to have him as a representative here in Kentucky. So congratulations again. You have a question? Senator Byrd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Guys, I just want to make a comment to the committee. First of all, thank you, sir, for your years of service to our country. I don't know how many of you all know this, but I served as the medical director of diagnostic radiology at the Robley Rex VA Medical Center for about 6 years. I sat on their executive committee. I helped run their hospital. And I love the VA, and I thank you, sir, so much for your comments about Robley Rex VA Medical Center. I do want to tell you that I had a communication from a friend that still works at the VA in Louisville. And what Dodge has done, guys, they have gone through through the computers, and anything that said contract, they ended. Any contract, any word that said contract, they ended.
Point of order.
They have put the VA medical system
We have a point of
into
order.
completely disarray. People need to know this. Thank you.
Point of order. Okay, thank you. All right. As we go down today's agenda, we're going to move one thing that was listed as number 8, the consideration of referred administrative regulations, 017 KAR 001030. Those proposals, as the committee has had the opportunity to look over those, these are just technical changes, updating a current policy. There's not anything ground shattering here, just simply changing and updating the language in the policy. If there's no further questions or any questions on this, okay, we don't need to vote on this? Okay. With that said, then, we're going to move on to our first presenters, the KDVA. KDVA Veteran Centers and HVAC issues we've been dealing with for some time in the Radcliffe Veteran Center, and it has, of course, impacted enrollments, impacted waiting list, and so I know this has been a hot-button issue since I have been in office. When I first came into office, the heating and air conditioning unit was down, and here we are 3 years later, and 4 years later, and we are just now going to hear about that issue and some of the circumstances surrounding that. So if those that have taken the table, if you would raise your right hands, I'd like to administer the oath. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. All right, at this time, please identify yourselves, and we have several of you here today.
Juan Renault, Deputy Commissioner, KDVA.
Mark, excuse me, Mark Bowman, Executive Director of the Office of Kentucky Veteran Center.
I'm Holly Johnson. I am the Secretary of the Finance and Administration Cabinet.
Scott Baker, Executive Director of the Office of Facility Development and Efficiency, Finance Cabinet.
All right.
Chairman, if it's your pleasure, I was asked after the agenda was developed to update you on census and any questions related to that. So would you prefer me to go through that before we talked about the HVAC system?
I think I would like that last.
Okay.
After the HVAC issue, I think that would be the top of the line questions here that we have concerns with. So I would like to hear about the processes and where we are on this project.
Thank you, sir.
Sure. Well, thank you for having us here today. I was asked to come, and I certainly very happy to be here, but my expert is is Scott, and he knows the project inside and out, so I asked him to come and present on this project. So I am going to turn it over to him and let him begin.
Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, Committee. So the HVAC system at the Radcliffe Veteran Center has been an ongoing issue for a number of years. That's correct. The project was funded in the 24 session, and that's when we could really begin to implement changes for the design of the replacement of that facility. Prior to that, we continued trying to limp along with the old system and buy parts and so forth, because the system had become very antiquated and did not meet our needs anymore. The project went through the normal process for design, where we have to do a project of this type with an RFP to select the design team. We did what we consider an accelerated design to get a design team on quicker. We got a design team on prior to the project being funded, because KDVA funded out of their pool money enough money to initiate that part and get the design started. So the design was started, went through the design process as normal. With some acceleration, we skipped what is considered Phase B. Our design processes have multiple phases to make sure all avenues are covered. We skipped Phase B in order to accelerate the design process and get it done a little bit as fast as we could. Complications with designing a complete HVAC replacement project in an operating nursing facility of this type are extremely difficult. It's not just to replace the unit on the outside of your house. This is a major renovation to the building. You have to come in. Again, the original system that was in the building was a variable refrigerant system. It's been found that those particular systems are not real conducive for this type application. So therefore, the design was to go back with the design intent from the beginning was to go back with a water system like what's in this building. So because of that, all of the ceilings have to come out, and the whole system is replaced from one into the other. So as we proceeded through the design process as fast as we could, then we put the project out for bid, and we awarded the contract. The project actually bid on March the 20th. We had 3 bidders on the project. On a project of this size, that's not unusual. If you've been around our business much at all, you understand that the best contract and the best tell of how good you've done what you've done is how close your bids are on bid day. Our bids came in from a $6 million range to $6.6 million in those 3 bids, which is considered fairly close window, with all of those being some of the better mechanical contractors that we deal with throughout the Commonwealth. So we felt very good on bid day to get the project awarded. Luss Mechanical is the contractor that's performing the work. They have mobilized, they're on site. They are performing all of the protective things that have to go in place first, because again, we're in an existing building. We've got to do separations to prevent dust and so forth from getting to any of our current patients and so forth and so on. So all those protections are in place. They've also proceeded with their shop drawings and submittals, which all have to be done prior to ordering any equipment. I reviewed the shop drawing and submittal list before I left the office. I actually printed off the critical path shop drawings and submittals, i.e. electrical equipment, big electrical equipment, and so forth. That is all already approved and on order, which is critical because we're still seeing very long lead times on a lot of that equipment that will push a schedule on a project. So we made that a priority on the front end with the contractor to make sure they got those submittals to us first so we could get those approved so they can get those ordered first. So again, currently the contract is substantial completion date is set for January of 26 is when the project is to be completed. I would anticipate, based on the current submittals and equipment, that I don't see any reasons that date's going to move any significantly at all. It may move for a week or something, but no significant changes to that schedule should occur based on the current submittals. So that's kind of where we are at this point with moving the project and getting everyone in motion to go.
Now, my understanding is this project was identified as an issue back in 2020. Is that correct?
That's in 2020 is when the first issues were discovered with the fact that the system that was in the building was the warranties failures were getting so intense that it was brought to our attention at Finance Academy Dimension Engineering. We began working more closely with KDVA at that point to determine that continuing to throw service money at the old system was probably not the best plan. So
I think earlier in your testimony, you in your statement, you said that this type of system was not ideal for that type of facility, a nursing home.
That's
My
correct.
question is why in the world was it put in to begin with? If was not ideal for a nursing home, why was that system put in from the original, from the start?
This same system is put in a nursing home in Glasgow that was built around the same time period, in the early around 2011, 2012. And that particular system is still up and working great. The difference in the systems are, at the end of the day, one of them was a high-end manufacturer, and the other one is not. Matter of fact, the system that went into the Radcliffe facility, that particular manufacturer is no longer even making these type systems. But again, because of the fact that our projects are all bid on a low bid award, and we write a specification that determines, this is what you have to meet. Those 2 projects were bid within a year or so of each other. Both met the required specifications, but again, one of them is just the manufacturer's system is just far superior than the manufacturer's system of what we ended up with at Radcliffe.
Now, as we moved forward from 2020, and we got into, when I came into office, it was a non-budget year. It was a short session. It was an issue then. Second year was a budget cycle. where you were awarded $9 million to fix this issue back in 2024, correct?
2024.
Correct. Is there anything that would have prevented you all from the time that the budget was passed in the spring? Was there, it may not be normal practice, but was there anything preventing you all from putting out bids for that particular job, knowing that the money, the budget would be coming into play in July? You said you had done some previously.
We did.
You did?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The RFP for the design services was actually posted in February of 24. So
And
that
you-
was 4 months prior to the funding coming available.
In some of the answers that to the questions that we submitted to you all about kind of the timeline and what was all happening, and I've looked over those answers, and you said that you had monthly meetings with KDVA. Is that correct?
Yes.
And this has been out now for 6 years, going on 6 years now, well, since 2020. So my question is, I'm assuming that this issue was not discussed at every monthly meeting, or was it?
So I'm not sure I understand what you're saying. The
You met
system
monthly.
itself, the system itself did not fail completely. This original system is still operating in half of the building.
Correct.
Currently. Okay? So we're able to salvage parts from what we're currently taking out in order to keep that part operating while we do the replacement in the wings that we just bid.
So I would assume then these things were being discussed in those monthly meetings of how much work needed to be done, how much of this facility was going without AC and heat,
Yeah,
and how this was breaking down and what the warranties were and why those weren't being fulfilled or expired. I'm assuming those conversations were being had on a monthly basis. Would that be a correct assumption?
Those conversations occurred prior to the award of this design contract. From the
And were they
2020
ongoing?
to the 2024.
And have they been ongoing on this
Yes,
project?
I mean, again, that's part of the design process.
The reason I asked this question is, were they ongoing in your monthly meetings, is because I've asked KDVA on 4 separate occasions, and on 4 separate occasions, I could not get an answer on where the project was. And so I'm just trying to figure out what the line of communication between your office and KDVA, and to see where was this project at. And when I addressed those issues with the individual commissioner, he told me it was in DECA. It was with DECA. It was with DECA. He never could give me an answer, though, of where we were along this process. And so I'm just trying to understand if these communications and monthly meetings were being held and you all were communicating back and forth with one another, those answers should have been readily available at any point in time when those questions were asked. Correct?
So the design meetings occur typically at the site or via a remote meeting with the site personnel, because that's what you're designing for.
Whether it's
So
designing
whether
or whether it's the ongoing or actually doing the job, those monthly meetings would have had updates in those monthly meetings so that the commissioner and KDVA would have been informed, correct?
Yeah, I can't speak for whether they were
Okay.
available to. I mean, again, those meeting minutes are all posted within
And
the
the
project management system that we use.
The reason I ask is because I'm concerned with the sense of urgency, and I know you've laid out the timeline, and I believe there was some major changes made in the timeline as well of when those things were going to be done. There was some adjustments, let's say, and those were provided in your answers. So with that said, I'm just kind of I'm worried about the sense of urgency when it comes to this project. We've been able to build an entire new facility. We've been able to build an entire building here in Frankfort. We've been able to do a lot of other projects. But in the time frame of which we have veterans that are on waiting list to get into a facility that has 120 beds, and yet we don't have a capacity to hold but half of that. The sense of urgency is real. The sense of urgency to serve those veterans and to get that facility up and running and those heating and air conditioning units in those rooms cooled or heated is critical. And to me, and I'm sure you share this same sentiment,
Completely.
it's very important.
no doubt.
It just seems like it's kind of taken a longer than normal time. And I know most people out there and our constituents, they sometimes say that we move at the speed of molasses in winter, and sometimes that's the case when it comes to government. And so I'm just trying to say, I'm trying to figure out, is there a way that this thing could have been expedited a little bit sooner or gotten done a little bit faster, or were there hang-ups and barriers that threw some wrenches into that process that delayed this? Now, why has it taken so long?
I mean, I think that when the funding was identified, the design process started before the funding was available in February. So I think that DECA did try to expedite as quickly as possible, knowing the funding was coming, the replacement portion of this project. Would that be a correct statement?
Yes.
So I understand your frustration, and we absolutely agree that the veterans deserve the absolute best that they can get. But we had to work within the confines of the funding that we had to work with the replacement pieces and parts until we did know that we did have funding to come to work on the replacement. Would that also be an accurate statement?
Yes.
So absolutely, we do totally agree that the veterans deserve the best, and we are working diligently to expedite this and have this in place as quickly as possible. And we did start the process prior to the funding being available as soon as we knew that it would be.
Okay. In the spring, before July 1, before money actually hit the...
The design bids were out in February as soon as we were aware that the money would be available in '24.
Yes. And the original diagnosis, I guess, of the system occurred much earlier than that. That original diagnosis that established the original budget and the original scope occurred from a study that occurred prior to. That's what the actual budget language for the 24-26 budget was based on. What was that original study that was executed back in 2020.
Right. So the money became available in July, but we didn't get anything. I guess you're saying it was February before there was actually movement on that? Is that what I'm hearing?
The design process started in February of '24. The design documents were completed, and we were ready to post construction bid documents in February of '25.
Okay.
Which is, again, that is the design process. It takes time. You don't just scribble and go. You got to go through the process. And again, that process is a little more intense when you're trying to design scopes of work in an operating facility. Mm-hmm. It becomes much more complicated than building a building out in the middle of a field.
I know we've got several other folks here that have questions that wanted to have answered. So at this time, we'll call on Representative Bratcher.
Thank you, Chair. Sir, I was just looking over some notes here. We had in 2017 or 2018 is when the facility was built, correct? And everything was brand new at that time. So 2017, this was a brand new facility. 17. And then you became aware of the issue that there was going to have a HVAC replacement in 2020. That's 3 years later. So in a brand new building, and now you came back to the legislature asking us for $6 million, and we awarded $6 million in 2024. Why are we pulling out of the taxpayers' pocket $6 million to pay for a heating and air unit that should have been right to begin with? And why aren't we holding the contractor accountable?
In 2020, when we were called in with the additional issues with the system, is when at that point the warranties on the original equipment were in the process of expiring. So again, you have a 1-year builder warranty that had already long since expired, and then you have certain component warranties on various components within the system. And that's what brought this up as a major issue for KDVA, is they're looking at their maintenance ledger sheets, and they're seeing the fact that all of these components were replaced under warranty, but in another year and a half, they're no longer going to be under warranty. So that's going to be a significant hit to their operating budget. So that's what raised the flag to the fact that we need to jump in to find a long-term solution, because the warranties on the existing equipment are expiring and they're failing. So
I appreciate you sharing that with me, but I just have a hard time, and I'll do anything I can in this state for the veterans. But I have a hard time with approving $6 million on something that should have been right to begin with. And we should have made note of this, and we should have held the contractor if it was a design flaw or whatever it was. But I just have a difficult time absorbing this. And one other question I had, if that's okay, Chair.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Was when will this be ready that we can get 100%? We have veterans on a daily basis wanting to get in this facility, and they can't get in at 50% occupancy on this basically brand new building. When will this be done, and we'll be able to have veterans move into this building? Being right next to Fort Knox is huge.
It's huge. So the current scope of work and the current project that is did bid at $6 million. The original appropriation from the legislative body was $9 million. Okay, the difference in that is still in the account being held for what's going to be required to be phase 2 that you're going to see in the next budget session. Because this phase 1 is addressing 2 of the patient units that are currently not occupied. We're salvaging the parts to keep the other section open, and we're replacing everything in those 2 units. Phase 2 that's in KDVA's budget for the next budget session is what does the remainder of the facility to get us 100% operation. The design documents for phase 2 are currently at phase C 95%. They are within 30 days of us saying, get them ready to bid, they're ready to bid, because, again, we want the continuity of design for the same design firm to design it all, and we had the funding in place for the full scope. So the design for the full project is virtually complete, and phase 1 has been bid and awarded at the $6 million contract amount, and then there's, again, the budget request for the remaining funding it's going to take. If that funding becomes available and we're able to bid the project, the intent is to have the project bidding next June so that the contract is ready to award in July when the funding becomes available. We want to have it shovel bid, ready to roll, so that it's ready to award in July when the funding comes available. Based on the schedule from this project delivery time, you're looking at about 7 months from start of project to completion. That scope is just a little bit larger because it involves the kitchen area. So I would say probably 8 months, 8 to 9 months construction.
Director, I appreciate all the information. I asked one question. When will it be complete? When will this be done? Simple question.
Depending on funding, it would be March of 27.
So it's taken us 6 years to replace a heating air conditioning unit in a brand new building for veterans. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Representative Sharp, I believe you have some questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Baker, looks like you got the hot seat today.
All good.
All right. So you were just talking about it taking 6 years to get this replaced, and I'm going to kind of piggyback off a little bit of Representative Bratcher. Why is it taking so long? What in the process is taking this so long to get this done?
So, first off, let me clarify that the 6 year number is not accurate. Okay, it's been 6 years since there was an issue identified, and then we began to go down this path. But the actual diagnosis of the fact that the system needed to be completely replaced did not occur until around 2023, and that's when we put together their budget request and requested the budget to replace it.
All right. Why did it take 3 years to figure out the whole system needed to be replaced?
Because at that time we were still working with KDVA to try to replace the components, because we wanted to go at all costs to avoid having to do a total system replacement. We agree that having to do a total system replacement on a facility this new is not the course of action we want to take. So what we tried to do was work very closely with KDVA, very closely with any other manufacturers that could possibly make components, But again, when the primary manufacturer of the primary equipment in the building stopped making that equipment, that's when it was kind of, okay, now we're kind of caught because we
All right,
won't be able to get that
Let's
equipment.
back up then to the original design of the original building with the original HVAC in there.
Mm-hmm.
Who reviewed those plans and approved that system, and was there any problems identified at that time with that system?
That would have been done, by the normal process of our office and the design engineering firm. And again, I say again, we did another nursing facility, 100-bed facility in Glasgow around the same time, slightly before this one, where the same type system was installed, and it's still operating today.
So
with
what's the
very limited
difference
issues.
between the two systems? How is that one operating without a problem, but yet this one we've got to completely replace? Then that begs the next question. When that starts having problems, are we going to have to come up with another $6 to $9 million to replace that?
The primary differences in the systems, again, are that one of them is considered one of the premier manufacturers of this type of equipment in the world, and the other one no longer manufactures this type of equipment. That's the difference. We can write our specification to require certain things, but again, there's a whole bunch of contractors and a whole bunch of manufacturers out there that are looking for loopholes within that to bid other products, and we have to accept other products. Our statute requires that we design on an or equal basis. We can't design around an exclusive manufacturer. So on bid day, when the other manufacturer, the one that we ended up with on the Ratcliffe facility, their product was perfectly fine and acceptable, and we had no reasons to indicate that it was not going to be able to meet the mission just like any of the others. That became very evident to us, and more importantly to KDVA, over the next few years when they were constantly having these warranty calls. And it was just a constant flow of warranty work coming in and out the door. That's when it became evident that, wait a minute, and I believe at that time there were conversations between us concerning, are you having these issues at Glasgow? And we're like, no, we're really not. So again, it is a manufacturer issue that, again, they honored their warranty the whole way through. They continued sending us parts, continued doing those things until their warranty was expired. When their warranty was done, obviously they were done as well.
Did they go out of business, or did they get bought out, or what
That
happened?
particular manufacturer no longer does this line of product.
So that particular manufacturer is still in business, but they just stopped making this system,
Yes,
and therefore there are no spare parts for it.
that's correct.
Exactly.
That's correct.
And they sold us this into a brand new building without telling us that was 36 months out. They had to have an idea what they were going to do with this system.
I can't speak for them as a manufacturer.
Who is that manufacturer?
Samsung. It's Samsung. And again, they have 1,000 lines of product on their list of different things they make, and this particular line, they no longer make it all.
All right, so just so that I'm understanding, this facility in Ratcliffe was built in 2017, 2018, correct?
That's
All right.
It opened in 17.
Opened in 17. All right, we started identifying problems. You guys started identifying problems with the HVAC in 2020. Is that correct?
yes, with warranty calls.
With warranty, okay. And then in February 24 is when you put out a request for proposal.
Yes, sir.
All right, now, and when did you identify that you were going to have to replace that system?
I'm making my notes to make sure I get. So the assessment study was completed in December of 22. And from that assessment study is what determined that the best course of action was to replace the system in its entirety. The system was going to have to be replaced in its entirety regardless, because again, the components for that original system were no longer available. So at that point, it was going to have to be replaced in its entirety. So the change from what is called a VRF system to a regular water system at that point became just a logical choice, because all of the components had to be replaced regardless. Even if we'd have chose to go back with VRF, all of the components would have been replaced.
And it took 14 months to make that decision, get all that put together, and get that out. Is that correct? February of 24 is when you put the request for proposal out?
So that the study from December of 22 is what determined that we needed to do a system replacement. From that, KDVA worked to include this project in their budget request. And once, as we've said, once we knew the funding was in place for the full replacement, then we, in an accelerated manner, put out the RFP to get the design started rather than wait until the funding was fully available in
And
July.
then how long did that take
For the RFP process?
to get the RFP out? From the time you identified in December 22 it had to be replaced, how long did it take?
Got those. So the RFP for design, the actual RFP for design was issued actually in October of 23. That's when the actual RFP was designed. The solicitation closed on 11/14 of 23. The shortlist meeting occurred on November 20, and these are all statutory required processes. The shortlist meeting occurred on November 20th of 2023. Interviews happened on December 4th, and then the design contract. So at that point is when we go into negotiation with the selected firm, and the design contract again was issued on 2/21 of 24. That's how we got to that 2/21/24 issuance of a design contract. Is all of those other things occurring again. So we were putting out RFP, we were doing all of that in October prior to even having a budget session to hopefully get funding or not get funding. Because at that point it was like we knew we had to do
Mr.
something.
Baker, the question was from December 22 until the RFP went out, what's the months, years we're talking?
December 22 to October of 23.
So it's less than a year.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then what's the RFP that was put out on February of 24 then?
That's the contract.
That's the contract for
That's
the
the
replacement.
contract for design.
For the design.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's resulting from that RFP. That's
Okay.
that's the result of that RFP.
All right. I understand their statutory requirements, but is there a problem in the process? Because we're talking about veterans, Kentucky veterans, and here we are. How long you guys been at 50% occupancy because of this issue?
Well, I don't have the historical for the years, but as soon as it was identified and determined that we would have to replace that side, that's when we capped it at 60. So it's been quite a while.
It's been since December 22 then, from what you just said.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Probably
All right.
right in there.
And here we are in 25. All right.
Representative Sharp, we've got a couple of other questions, but I want to give you an opportunity to get in an additional question if you have one.
Well, I'm just going to make a suggestion. Next time something like this comes up, and I understand there's statutory requirements in that, but something like this process we could have sped this up somehow, and I would ask that you come to this committee so that we can work on trying to get something like this sped up so that we can take care of our veterans, because this is absolutely unacceptable what's going on here in my mind. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative. We have a couple more questions here. Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to get into the general population issue that we are having in our veteran facilities, because I asked about this before. It is a crucial issue to me. And we discussed neighboring states. The response I got was that you need to look at the national levels. I did. The national levels show that, generally speaking, our veteran health facilities, generally according to Rand Quarterly Health, is about 70 to 90%. We have across the nation, 30,000 authorized beds by the VA. The VA at the federal level provides for 14,500 of them, so about half of them. Our state average, this facility included, is currently at 62%. Neighboring states, I mentioned this, Ohio, Indiana, Tennessee, they're at 95%. I get that there are states that are below that. That being said, I don't think our veterans deserve average. I don't think they deserve below average. I think they deserve the best because they are Kentucky's best. I think that's a consensus we can all have. So I just want to ask the question that I asked a couple weeks ago again. Is there a Kentucky-specific issue that is hindering our ability to get to the levels that we're seeing in neighboring states, in other states, to really give the veterans the best that they can have? And I ask that question because I want to be a partner in making sure our veterans are receiving the best.
So there, if for those of you all that might have been in last week's testimony, I'm going to kind of talk about the same issues. And when we compare ourselves with other states, I think benchmarks are very important. But the bottom line is we're dealing with our current situation in Kentucky as it sits. And the timeline, if you remember, and I don't mind showing it again with your permission, sir. Okay. So yeah, that's fine. So our timeline, this is a 2013 to 2025. And what we've tried to do is share some of the key issues that we think have impacted our census, and we've been consistent in our testimony. I'm not making excuses because we stipulate that we all want to fill our facilities and take the provide the appropriate care. So the bottom line is really until 2022 and 2023, as we came out of COVID and got the wage changes that really impacted our ability to hire nursing staff. And any of you all that have been in committee with me, and it's ad nauseum, and I don't mean to repeat it, but we will admit when we can appropriately take care of people. I would rather have lower census than bring someone in that we know we can't meet their needs, because that's just a bad outcome. And I know you all have supported us my 11 years here, and I tell the other states the support's unbelievable. This is not, nobody wants this. We want to increase that. So fast forward, moving forward, the trend is moving forward. All the right things happen, not near as quick as any of us wanted to. I wish a lot of things that have happened back in 15, 16, 17. I certainly wish COVID never happened. But the bottom line, it did. And there's been some respected legislators that would make a comment to me, and I appreciate the comment. Well, COVID's done and over with. Fact is, it had an impact. And I hate it. Nobody hates it worse than our team and the people that provided care to our veterans and our communities that lost veterans. So the bottom line, and I promise you I'm trying to get to your answer, we are moving forward, okay, if you could change that. So what we've done, and this is something I want to share, back in 23, we had to submit our budget. Based on that, we were just coming out of recovery into COVID. The special entry rate and the locality premium that we were authorized to use had just went into place. We had no idea what the impact was going to be. So we had to forecast for this current biennium based on the best guess of what would happen. And if this again, our forecast, I'm not saying we're perfect. I'm not saying we're exact, but look at the numbers. The census on the left, and for those of y'all heard me testify, I'm colorblind, so what I call the blue one on the left is the actual census as of June 5th. The orange, or whatever color that is the budgeted census. Okay, so that was back in 23 that we forecast this with so many variables. We did our best. I'm not saying we did it right. So on the right-hand side is the capacity per facility.
That's the capacity.
So yes, the capacity is what I think is gray or whatever color it is. It's the higher number, right? So what we tried to show is where we're at, where we thought we'd be at, and certainly we want to improve. But guess what? We're stuck in a biennium, and we've already got the funding and all of that stuff. So what our repair is we're working on our budget submission for the next biennium. So guess what? We're certainly not going to stay here. We want to aggressively try to go ahead and fill not only the positions, but also the beds. again, in a qualitative way. So that's the current situation. Can I give you an answer that we're going to be full next year? Absolutely not. I'm not going to blow smoke. I'm not going to do it, nor do you want me to, I don't think. We try to forecast and then fill that mission the way that we're funded and budgeted, and then go on to the next biennium and continue growth. And that's the best answer I can give you. And I trust me, we're getting ready to have a national conference of state veterans homes here. I function at the national level and have been part of that governing body for a long time. Yes, there are a lot of people that have great successes, but they'll be the first to tell you. And I would ask you to come join them and ask. And they'll tell you, hey, just because I'm having a success, number one, they're funded, they're organized different, their geographic area where they're at, it's all different. And all of that plays into this. But the bottom line, our goal will continue to be, and I've said this again, not to beat a dead horse, quality for the care that we have in our house and access second. Otherwise, there is no other mission for us, and you all have supported that. And I hate it for the constituents that have been affected. I'll be the first to say I hate it.
Thank you. You have a follow-up?
Yeah, just very quickly on this. I mean, because the thing is, in 2023, those neighboring states, they were at 95% as well. Mm-hmm. And at a certain point, yes, COVID had an impact. Mm-hmm. It was declared over in 2020, late 2021, early 2022. Yeah. So at a certain point, we have to stop beating that dead horse too. No, and in my view, I just wanted to see about this. Like, have you conversed with these other states in terms of what they're doing differently to where the impact of COVID wasn't as big of an impact for them as it is for us? And are you planning on implementing those? And is that something to approach us about in 2026?
Yeah, yes. There's a lot of moving parts there. So we constantly talk with each other about best practices. But like Stony Brook at Long Island is in a hospital. It's right beside a hospital, a VA hospital in Long Island. That's a totally different feeder system, right? I mean, you've got people coming into that hospital adjacent to the actual facility itself. But one of the things that and it really goes back to this timeline, is there are a lot of factors that, in our opinion, I'm not saying I can't show the data. I wish I could. But really, once, and again, this is my personal speculation. I wish I could show it. But one of the things that we've seen is, and we talk about this a lot, for us, and I can't speak to other areas, but for us, we're seeing our veterans coming in a lot later and a lot sicker than they used to. Because guess what? And I'm a veteran, and I've been doing this 35 years my whole life. Guess what? I love our facilities, and I'll put them up against anybody, but I don't want to go in one in my end days. I want to be at home with my loved ones, and I think everybody else wants to do that. So what we're seeing, and it speaks to really the average length of stay and the churning of the beds, if you will, is we're seeing coming in later sicker with comorbidity. So what's happening is those beds are unfortunately turning over because of mostly death, but some discharge. Those are successes if we can send someone home, right? So as we do that, all of a sudden we have more admissions. And really, our referrals are not near as strong as it was back in the early years, and I'm talking before I came on board in 2014. And part of that, I think, is if somebody is Medicaid eligible, let me just give you an example there because I think it's a tangible example. In the old days, there was a sliding scale payment mechanism for our facilities before we became Medicaid certified in 2014. So what happened, we were really a place of choice, and it really helped preserve resources many times for veterans and their families, and that's an important qualifier, I think all of us know. So once we became Medicaid certified, if somebody needs a placement as much as they might want to come to our facilities, let's take somebody that's 2 hours away. If they can come to our place 2 hours away, or if they can go to a Medicaid facility under a contract or even a service-connected contract with a VA 15 minutes away, where do you think that 95-year-old woman's going to choose? Because she loves her husband and wants to see him. So that, amongst a lot of other things, that I think that's impacted it.
Thank you. I want to just kind of reiterate for our veterans and for those that are watching. Our VA centers are not the only place that our veterans are receiving care. as you've just spoken, and I think it's something that your chart doesn't show, and I think it is important to recognize, is that a lot of the veterans are going into nursing homes in their communities, of which they have contracts with VA to cover those expenses and those things. And that is happening across the Commonwealth, and it's happening probably more than, of course, your charts are showing here. My father was one and did the same exact thing. Now, I do say this with a grain of salt. They would all probably like to be in the VA center. You know, they're wonderful facilities and well staffed. They have great people that care about them, and so do our other nursing homes in our communities. So those are tough decisions families have to make on how far away and where they send their loved ones. But I want to make clear that our veterans are being served not only here, although the capacities is not where we would all like to see. They are being served in other nursing homes in our communities. So I want to make that point clear. I know we've been going quite a long time here, and I've got a couple more people I want to get questions to. Representative Roberts, does that answer your question earlier, your secondary question?
Yeah, and I just
Okay.
want to be clear. Like, I appreciate the candor on this one. That said, there is a long waiting list, and
Yes.
I just want to look to what we can do as a General Assembly next session to get this filled as quickly as possible. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you. All right, at this time, I've got a few more folks' questions. I just want to remind you, please make these quick. We do have other presenters today, but this is the topic of the day, and so I want to give this its due diligence and its proper time. So at this point in time, I want to call on Representative Massaroni, and followed up by Representative Bland.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a quick question. Who was the commissioning agent on the previous 2020 build, and who is going to be the commissioning agent on the new build?
I will have to look in the files to see who the original commissioning agent was. And the current project, we just put out the commissioning. I'll have to look at both, because we're just now bringing the commissioning agent on for this phase, and that I believe that RFP selection is out currently for that.
Would you mind sending that to the committee? That way we can just, thank you.
Representative Bland.
Thank you. Two quick questions. These will
Yes.
require very short answers. First of all, Director Bowman, I want to begin with you, talking about our facilities around the state, and we've been talking about not being able to fill them to capacity. We know that that's been an issue due to staffing, and we've trying to do things to improve that. It's not a fault of your all's; it's a pay thing mostly. But what we do know is we have one center east of I-75 in Hazard, and it's one of your better staffed. It's one of your higher percentage of occupancy in the state, correct?
Yes,
So, but we're limited to the number of beds that we have in Kentucky, and right now we're below 50, I believe, of beds left on our allotment in the state. As you are well aware, Director Bowman, I have been an advocate and continue to be that the next Veterans Nursing Home goes in McGoffin County. The problem is we don't have enough beds in the allotment. We are positioned, one, to staff it. We've proven in Eastern Kentucky that we can fill these facilities, and there's a multitude of reasons why that it's a good location. Plus, the expansion of the Mountain Parkway will be completed before we get a nursing facility built there, which means 4-lane access to a veterans hospital in Lexington, 4-lane access all the way to the Huntington VA hospital. It's a prime central location, and we can staff it, and we're going to be able to fill those beds there. So we're not going to have, the waiting list is going to be because the occupancy is full, not because of the other things that these others are going through. But the question is this: you and I have had the conversation in the past of looking at privatizing some rooms in some of these facilities that aren't able to, because of staffing issues, to get to capacity, privatizing some rooms, putting some beds back into our allotment so we can get another facility. Is that conversation still ongoing, and where is it at right now?
Thank you. And first, I want to agree with you. The hazard facility, number one, they are fully staffed. We just can't get enough applications because they kind of dried up for a while. But we're really pushing to get that. We thought we were going to hit 100 this week. Only we hit 98. So we're working hard, and it is one of the higher census facilities, and the staff down there have consistently stayed full, other than a little blip in the word that I won't use again during that period. So yes, we have really talked about that long ago, since you and I talked and previous commissioners talked about the sensibility of what the future holds for our veterans. And it's really not, and I would say, and I think you would agree, Representative Blanton, it's not in the context of doing something to get you the beds, but what may make sense for our veterans. And so the trend, the VA will not approve a grant to build new state veterans homes. There's only 173 in the nation, unless it's a private room, private suite. So what we found during this word that I won't say again is, because that census dropped and we quit admitting, we ended up putting a lot of people in semi-private rooms with one occupant. In other words, a private room. And that still holds to this day until we get the census up where we have to creep back into those semi-private rooms. What we found is not only is that a demand for most of us, because if anybody in here wants to be in a semi-private room with somebody else and share a bathroom with 2 to 4 people, please raise your hand. My hand's not going up. So what we want to do is we strategically think and position ourselves for the future. And this is something I hope the Commonwealth and all its partners consider this. We have ran models about what would we do and how would that affect our bed count by going to private rooms in the facilities that present that opportunity. The two places that present that opportunity right now, and have since the word I want to say, is Western Kentucky Veterans Center and Thompson Hood. Hazard stays full. We're never going to reduce beds when the demand in a location's there. So I would love, and again, we've modeled this, but it's going to take a consensus, because if we reduce beds until something else is built, that reduces access. But the argument would be right now, well, what about access? You can't bring them in now, right? So the value of private rooms, not only from a customer service standpoint and a quality of life experience, but also infection control. Anybody that's been in healthcare, it's easier to have great infection control when you're in a semi or a private room versus a semi. So all of those things told, it's a serious conversation that's been going on. Decisions not been made, but I would love to see all the consensus partners come together and agree that, hey, we as a Commonwealth want to head in that direction, and then get together and make a decision. I've got my opinion, but guess what? We serve the Commonwealth and its veterans, and you all represent them from a legislative standpoint. So that's a great discussion to have, and I'd be glad to have it with anybody, because I have a strong opinion about it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do you have another one?
Very, very quick.
Quickly.
First of all, we have over 300 beds empty. We're not able to staff them. So taking 25 or 30 beds, rooms, making them private and putting that back in the allotment so we could get started in McGoffin County is not going to leave veterans without, because we can't staff it to fill it anyways. It's just leaving empty spaces right now. But my next question is actually for Director Baker. This is a simple question, actually. I've been in your shoes in my previous life and having to bid these things through RFPs, and sometimes you get people that submit and they meet the criteria and it turns out not to be good quality stuff. I get that. But do we know who the manufacturer is for this new system that's going to be put in place?
Yes, I don't have it with me, but the submittals have been done in the shop. But again, we're moving to a boiler chiller situation instead of a variable refrigerant.
Sure.
So it's going to be more traditional equipment, but I can get you that information.
Would you please, just the name of the
but it's gonna be
manufacturer
more
for
traditional.
curiosity? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Representative Moore and then Representative Stevenson, and that will wrap up our questions for KDVA AC and heating unit. So Representative Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking at slide number 9 if they want to go to that as well. One thing I've heard a lot as far as inability to get veterans into beds who are on a waiting list right now. is the staffing. And so that slide shows the number of nursing hours per resident, and it looks like right now in our facilities, we have a lot more nursing hours per resident than the state standard and the national standard. So, I mean, you can explain it to me super simple elementary school style. It seems like we have some nurses available. Clearly, we have beds available. So even without an increase in funding, you're saying you're kind of limited based off that biennium. Can we not utilize some of those beds and some of the available nursing hours to get more people into these facilities?
Yeah, and if I may, and I don't mean I'm going to. Can I? When you said provide a layman's response to you, can I do that without? And I don't mean this in any disrespectful way.
I'm a simple man. Go for it.
Your mom's in one of the facilities. Which one do you want to go into? Because that's a nursing hours per patient day. So if your mom needs to go into a facility, your dad, which of those do you want to go into? The blue, the orange, or the gray?
Right, and the blue is not 0.01 above the orange or the gray. It looks like we're
it's a lot, yes, and because it translates into quality and what you provide for the residents in your house. And the bottom line is, let's say we admit 5 more veterans without adding any staff, because staff's not unlimited, right? So all that does is that brings that number down. Now, there's some compounding factors along those same lines, too, is because there's a couple facilities that have the new private room, private suites. They're called CLC or small house design. Logistically, that spreads you out because they're all private rooms. Radcliffe Veteran Center is a great example. You have a lot of area to cover, so you have to staff it higher. There was a study done when we built Radcliffe, and it still holds close true today. If you take a medical model versus what we call these CLC models, they're great because you get 65% funding from the federal government to build them, but they operate at about a 30% increased cost, and that's because the staffing has to be increased. All right. Then the other thing we factor, not only do we want the best quality, and I'm not saying other providers don't. I'm not saying that whatsoever. Everybody does a good job. But we identify the needs of those that we have in-house, and we've talked a lot about acuity, and sometimes the acuity requires more nursing hours per day to make sure we meet their specific needs. And there's no template that addresses every facility and every circumstance. So there is some variability in there, but that's where our team really works hard of assessing their capability and what they have in front of them and what they have to take care of, and then admit accordingly. Is it an exact science? No, sir, it's not.
Can I ask one real quick follow-up?
Please make it quick.
Yes. So we see the state standard or state average, national average. Is there a target number that you all operate off of at KDVA that is your target that maximizes service but also getting veterans in the door?
Yes, sir. We really, and it depends on the current demand in that facility, but we really try to stay in the 4.2, 4.6, depending on the acuity and also the layout of the building. So when we're up, like the one at Thompson Hood's a 4.57, that's a little lower, but that's a medical model facility. It's a big one. So we try to stay in those numbers. And I'll have to say, for my fellow providers in the state, there are some fellow providers. If you look on the CMS Compare website, they're also up in higher numbers. We're not the only one. And I don't ever want to make it seem that way, because everybody does. Anybody that's committed to this mission of caring for elderly, whether they're veterans or not, it's a calling. So people do a tremendous job, and I'm proud to be part of those teams.
All right. Representative Stevenson.
Thank you. I just want to thank you for the work you do, and make sure you hear it. It might seem like you're on the grill right now, but this is actually a good news story because all of us are passionate about veterans. So I'm hoping that you are coming up with a budget for next year that will include all the things they said, so that you can get the money you need to serve our veterans, especially in light of what Senator Byrd said about the reduction in services because of people's actions. So take this as a good sign. Come and ask this committee for what you want, because they've all said they're passionate about veterans and they're going to do the work.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. And that means so much to us. But I can also tell you this, as a veteran, as a taxpayer, I take no offense at any of these questions, because I ask them because I'm a little older than some. There will be a day that I may need a bed, right? So I look at it as my future and also as the taxpayers and who we serve, and that is specifically in this case veterans. I take no offense at that. I wish I had all the answers, because if I had all the answers, I could go on the national trail and be a billionaire. I can promise you that.
All right. Are there any other questions? Well, thank you for your time. I know it's been a long hour here for you on the hot seat, but these issues are near and dear to us. We want, I believe all of us can agree that we want the very best for our Kentucky veterans, and we would like to see this air-conditioned unit. And please let us know who that manufacturer is, and see if we can't get better than a 1-year warranty on parts and replacements in this contract with the new manufacturer. So thank you very much for coming today. Next up on the agenda, folks, is USA Cares, Matt Castor. I will remind any committee members, if you have any further questions for KDVA, or any of the people that presented earlier, please put those in an email. We'll be glad to submit those for you or with you. So please reach out to them, and if you have any further need to bring them before this committee, please let us know. All right. At this point in time, please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Matt Castor. I'm the president and CEO of USA Cares.
Thank you, Board. Thank you, Chairman. My name is Angela Chatou. I'm the program manager for the Kentucky program.
I'm Bill Deriff, former mayor of the city of Jeffersontown, and serve on the board of USA Cares since that term has ended.
If you would raise your right hand, please take the oath. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. You may begin.
Again, thank you to the committee, Mr. Chairman, for having us today. I'm excited to be here on behalf of USA Cares and share with you the story of the last 12 months since you all took an opportunity to invest in veterans through USA Cares. And it has been an exciting journey. It has been one that we're very proud of, and look forward to telling you this story. For those of you who may be less familiar with USA Cares, I wanted to take just a moment to explain a little bit about who we are and what we do. So USA Cares began in 2003, right outside of Fort Knox, and it began as a service of helping veterans and their families who are coming back wounded in combat. Transition now, 22 years later, it's an organization that is helping with some of those invisible injuries as well, of post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, and just the complicated nature of transitioning from a military life to a civilian life. And so we have a call center in Louisville, in Jeffersontown, where we receive calls from all over the country. And right now we're getting about 250 calls a week from veteran families in crisis. And these veterans are calling saying, I'm about to be evicted from my home. We're about to lose our vehicle to repossession. We don't have food. We can't keep the lights on. And they're desperately looking for somebody to help. And if you're a veteran or know a veteran, you know how hard that call is to make. That's a brutal thing. And we have some wonderful call center people who can take their hand, walk them through this process, and we offer them grants that they do not have to repay. So we step in and we start making payments on their behalf. We never give the veterans money directly. We make payments on their behalf to make sure that the money is going where it needs to go. One thing I will mention about the mission that you see on this, this is our standard mission to provide post 9/11 military veterans. But because of the funding that Kentucky provided, now we help post and pre 9/11 in Kentucky. We're very proud of that. This chart is one that we've made just to show kind of what we're seeing. And this is pretty standard, but when we see veterans leave service, a lot of times they're losing their people. They're losing their tribe. They're losing the connection with some of those people that gave them some stability. So this idea of exiting service and it being a smooth ride is not the case at all. Many of them, as it states, are having difficulty finding employment or if they do find employment, struggle to relate to their employer or find those communities that they appreciated in the military within those companies. So we also work with employers as well. And we talk about things like, yes, everybody wants to hire a veteran, but do you know what it means to hire a veteran? Do you know what comes along with that? Are you able to build a support system for those people once they're in place? And so we try to walk them through this process, and we say that ultimately we want to eliminate the factors that lead to veteran suicide, because these transitions and losing their homes and losing their vehicles, losing their jobs, are all factors that we are seeing that are leading to this. We have all kinds of stories I could share with you. This is just one. I won't read it verbatim, but every case that we get in Kentucky is unique, and the situations that might come up in a person's life, related to their occupation, related to their family situation, again, just exacerbates the issues that already exist with their mental health. And so we are going to take every step we can to help them and every step we can to walk them through. So when you're allowing USA Cares to use budgeted dollars to help these families, this is exactly what you're doing. And you are saving lives by doing so. Many people, for those of you who don't know USA Cares very well, you'll notice that we're not on TV. You don't see us a lot. You don't see us promoting. We spend hardly anything on marketing. And that's good and bad, I guess. But where do I refer? So if we don't market, how do people find out about us? Well, this is how. These are where our referrals are coming from. We are often not the first call. We're often the fourth. A lot of people will go to other nonprofits, they'll go to other services seeking help, and they may get partial assistance and then a referral to us. So by far our largest referral is the VA itself. We love the VA, we love to work with the VA. At the same time, we're just trying to keep up. Other organizations like Wounded Warrior Project and our friends at Disabled American Veterans will send people when they are a good fit for us. And we are honored that they think that highly of us to pass them along. It's my job to try to find the funding to see all these cases through. Specifically for Kentucky, I wanted to give you a glimpse of some of the things we look at as well. The VA is the highest here. We do work with the KDVA, and there's some cases that come through the KDVA. And then, but it's really through a multitude of sources and organizations. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll tell you, for this 12-month period, this $1 million for this 12-month period, one of your questions to me is where we stand and how we're trending. And so this is, while it's not the full 12 months, this is an 11-month snapshot. And to date, we have spent $890,000 of this allotment on our cases. We are allotted up to 10% to use for administrative, and we've used right about 3% of those fundings for administrative, bringing our total to $922,000, and that's 244 veteran families that have been assisted so far here in Kentucky. As it stands, we are trending to be just over $1 million for the 12-month period, roughly $6,000 over that $1 million. What that breaks down to. So in each one of these situations, it's very rare if somebody comes to us and says they need help, do they need help with just one payment? So if they need help with a mortgage bill, they're likely also going to need help with a utility payment to keep the lights on, to keep the air conditioning on. We can all appreciate that today. And trying to stay ahead of their situation. So this is a little breakdown of what those dollars went to and how they help. So 741 total payments over the last 11 months. I mean this sincerely when I say we are honored by this project. This has been phenomenal. I watched what I remember sitting here 2 years ago asking you all for help, trying to find some way to help because we were getting inundated with requests and we were trying to fund it privately and we just weren't able to keep up with demand. And now I see where in the first quarter of this project, we were able to assist more families than we were in the entire previous year. And that is so exciting to me. And that is something that other states are now taking note of and want the same type of program in their state. So Kentucky is really setting the bar for how this looks and how this should move forward. So I thank you all very much.
Thank you. We have a few questions, and please make them quick. We do have one more presenter today, and I want to give everybody we do have a caucus meeting after this, so I want to give everybody time to grab a bite if you need to right before that caucus meeting. So we do have some questions. Representative Bratcher.
I just want to thank you all for the work you do. We had about 30 or more National Guard members that left their homes to help with the flooding in the different areas, and their homes themselves were flooded. And you all stepped in and helped their families, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Representative Proctor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for what you guys do. It's very near and dear to my heart, as I too have worked with veterans in a comprehensive rehabilitation program. My question is, and this is just perhaps my unfamiliarity with all of what you guys do, when you are doing these financial services, is there any financial literacy that you're working with to help our veterans be good stewards of the money that they have and maybe making some adjustments so that we're not in this cycle of dependency? And with that, do you also do any like vocational training to help them be successful? So if we're having this anger management issue at work, are there ways to work on that?
Thank you so much, Representative, for the question. Yes, we are honored to partner with the Bound Credit Union, who has set up a course for all of our clients when they come out to walk through a financial plan. Because so many of the people that we help were very young going into service and are often coming out without that training and without that preparation that some of us may have taken for granted. And so walking through things, if you make $50,000 a year, maybe you shouldn't buy a $40,000 car. Things like that, that we walk through so that they're not finding themselves back in that same scenario, and understand there are predators out there who will try to take advantage of them because they recognize that they may not be as well versed in those areas as they should be. And then we also have staff members who help with resumes. If you've ever seen a veteran's resume, they can be quite extensive and quite detailed. And so we try to civilianize those resumes and help them with interviewing skills and those types of opportunities.
Senator Berg. I'm sorry, did you have a follow-up? Okay. Senator
Thank
Berg.
you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you guys for what I see as like an obvious humanity in the work that you are doing. It is amazing, and thank you. I have one very selfish question. I live right off of 71, Zorn Avenue, VA right there. Every time I get off the expressway, there is somebody there with a sign that says, "Help me, I am a homeless veteran." Mm-hmm. And I'm like, the VA is across the street. What can I do? Can I give these people a number, a place? What type of outreach do we have for them?
I love that question, Senator, and thank you so much for asking. You know, there are so many good USA Cares is just one of the veteran services here in Kentucky, one of the nonprofits that's doing great work, but there are so many. And I think what's great about utilizing the legislature, utilizing nonprofits, is it becomes a filtering system. So anybody can come to us and request the help. I may not be the perfect solution for every single situation, but I know a lot of people in Kentucky, and we can likely get them to somebody who can help. So Angela's team, she is amazing, by the way. She and her team are handling all of these Kentucky cases as they're coming through, and they handle them quickly, often within less than 48 hours. And they can see if they qualify for this particular program. And if they don't, then they can get them to another service or through the VA to the right person to get them help.
Senator, I'd like to also answer that question at USA Cares. We try to get the veteran before they become homeless. Before they become homeless, we can save that family, that veteran, that house for about $4,100. Once they become homeless, it costs Louisville $27,000 to house that veteran outside the house, just on the street. So I want to thank all you all, because I was here 2 years ago with Matt asking for the funding, and you all put very specific stipulations on us, and we have followed to the T absolutely, helping every veteran we could in the state of Kentucky, doing it at less than 10%. And the advertising that Matt said, we decided as a board not to spend the money on advertising, but to spend it on the veteran. So I love the fact when we were here last time, the rousing support we got from the House and the Senate saying, yes, we believe in that veteran, and yes, we want to support them, and we want to help them before it becomes a major problem.
Representative Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all again so much for all that you're all doing for our veterans. Question for you, if you all are supporting a veteran and that veteran passes, is there any type of continuation or transition period if that person has a spouse, a surviving spouse or partner?
Yes, we have helped with widows who the veteran just recently passed. It is in the memorandum agreement where we're allowed to help them temporarily. So we have helped the spouses if the veteran just recently passed.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Representative Thomas.
Thank y'all for so much for all that you do, and excited to see that the $1 million that we put in there, you're so close to. I mean, I think your report was the month of June, and yet so you're going to hit pretty close. So it's always nice to, when you ask for the certain amount, that is what you need, and it's not underspent or overspent. So saying that, I know y'all have been working a little bit, Kentucky with Fort Campbell. We share a border with Tennessee. Is there anything we can do to help with maybe Tennessee picking up some funding with all the vets coming out of the Tennessee side? Because I know y'all are kind of been limited. And thank you for staying in Kentucky too, and your operation staying in Louisville.
We're very, very happy to be in Kentucky. And yes, Representative, I think that Fort Campbell presents a unique challenge as it straddles the state line. And with the majority of the men and women serving being south of the line and in Tennessee, it presents a unique challenge. And we have spoken with Fort Campbell's leadership as far as we can help in this area, but not in this area. And it does create an awkward situation. So we are working very, very hard with the state legislature in Tennessee to help them understand the scope of it. And it looks promising, but yes, anything you can do to help get that message across would be very much appreciated.
I have a few friends over on the Tennessee side, so I'll make some calls there. So thank you.
Sir. Thank you.
Senator Yates.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Matt, Angela, Bill, thank you guys so much. One thing that I think is really unique about USA Cares is you're also educating. So it's those wraparound services, and we've seen a lot of times that not only does financial destitute make you homeless, but it also leads to that mental health decline. And this legislature tried to tackle some of the claim sharks last time. We came just a little bit short. Hopefully we're going to get it this session. But in the meantime, organizations like USA Cares tells the veterans, hey, here's these protections in place. Don't let them steal your money. Here's the proper way to go through with it. So while we fell short, you guys came in and tried to really help fill that gap. And I just want to say thank you. And hopefully this session we'll get that through.
Thank you, Senator.
Thanks.
Without any further questions, I do want to say congratulations on your appointment or your new position with USA Cares. I know your predecessor did a wonderful job, and I know you are working very hard. And I'm very, very pleased with your report, as Representative Thomas has stated. You know, very seldom do we have folks come before us and they request all kinds of money in all amounts, and large and small. And sometimes the large requests are way and above what they need. But your organization and the management of that organization deserves a lot of credit. You have come before us with a need for Kentucky veterans. You've specified how you're going to help them. You've asked for exactly what you need, not for what you want. I wish we could give you more and help everyone, but you were specific about what your goals were, and you've met those. And I encourage my colleagues here as we go into the next budget cycle, to consider organizations like USA Cares and the continued funding for this organization for the great work that you do here in the Commonwealth on behalf of our veterans. So thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair.
And with that said, we have one more. Without any further questions for this group, then we have Representative Peyton Griffin to come on up and discuss with us a bill that has kind of been around for a little while. I want to say when I first came to Frankfurt, this was one of the bills that I was trying to tackle at the time. But of course, it's dealing with revenue and taxes and all. It has to begin in the House, and here we are.
Yes,
and
sir.
so I'm welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record, and you may begin.
Yes, sir. I'm Representative Peyton Griffey. I'm the 26th district, which is Bullitt and Hardin County, which includes Fort Knox. And I appreciate you all today. I know you've heard a lot of testimony, so I will be brief. I want to make sure I don't keep Representative Bratcher from lunch. So I will. I'll be brief. But this is a really important bill, and it's been around a while. Last session, this was House Bill 113. And so I plan to file it again, and it's a pretty simple, common sense bill that I think would do a lot for our veterans. So this is the motor vehicle usage tax. And this was not a tax that I was really tracking when I got to Frankfurt, but it's kind of caused a little bit of a burden for some of our soldiers and airmen and all members of our armed forces when they're moving to the state. What is happening is there's a 6% tax on motor vehicle usage, and a lot of folks are paying this when they move from somewhere else into the Commonwealth. They're getting hit with this 6% tax. So I was approached when I first got here to Frankfurt in 2024 from some folks in the Fort Knox area and some other people that I had talked to. Who this is really burdening is retirees that want to move back to Kentucky, soldiers who are PCSing to either Fort Knox or Fort Campbell, and they're getting hit with this tax. And a lot of times they're paying double because they've paid this motor vehicle usage tax wherever they've come from, and now they're paying it again here in Kentucky. So simply this would add, and what the language currently reads is if you were on active orders and either you're a retiree or former member of the armed forces currently serving and you were on active orders and purchased a vehicle and then you moved to this state, you would be exempt from this tax. And you can find it's KRS 138-470 has a list of a lot of other exemptions. There's already quite a few groups that are exempt. Charities is one that jumps right out at me that's already exempt from this tax. And so one thing I did want to note, so you can see that language. I have talked to the National Guard Association. I'm a reservist myself, and as soon as I filed this, I heard from some folks that I still serve with that I think we can clean that language up and make sure our Reserve and National Guard are included in that as well. A lot of times, unintentionally, the way we use language, we end up just encompassing the active duty, and as some of you in this room that are serving in the National Guard or Reserves or know that that's a big commitment when you're on the Reserve National Guard. So I want to make sure we include them too. So I do plan to work with the National Guard Association and some other groups to clean that language up and make sure we get as many people as we can included in this bill so that they would be exempt from that 6% motor vehicle usage tax. I just want to end briefly with the why. Again, I think this is, it's a low impact bill. I've had some financial, I've gone back and forth with what this would cost. And I don't have an exact number on that because it's a little hard to gauge. It's a little bit, there's quite a bit of math involved, and I went to law school because I can't do math. But I'm looking at what that number would be. I think, though, the benefit we would get is this is another tool. I've talked to Representative Thomas about this before. It is keeping people that come here for Fort Knox or Fort Campbell, keeping them in the state. These are people that are trained. They are excellent folks that we want to keep for economic development, add to our workforce. And so this is an easy recruiting tool for our state to say, look, Tennessee might offer X, Y, and Z, but Kentucky, we're lowering the income tax. We're doing all these things. And also, you won't have to pay this motor vehicle usage tax because we care about you. And so while it's not a heavy lift, I think the impact would be very heavy and would do a lot for recruiting and keeping people here in the state, which is exactly what we want. So if there's any questions, be happy to answer them, but that's simply what the bill does.
Senator Yates.
Yes, sir.
First of all, thank you, and I kind of remember last little explanation on it. One of the questions that came up there, was there a limit on how many vehicles you could do? Because I always look at any time we pass legislation, sometimes people try to take advantage of it, and I don't saying that usually there's the 1 or 2% that will, and so it would be, if you wind up being kind of a part-time car dealer where I guess you get 6 or so many that you can run through.
Sure.
And then you would avoid that to the clerk's office. So I didn't know if there was a limitation. I get it. If we want to bring our retiree back and they want to bring their vehicle here and transfer that, I think it helps ease that burden. But obviously you don't want, if somebody's got a little side business, we don't want that to be able to kind of escape their ability to pay into the taxes. So I didn't know if that's something that you had looked or considered, or.
I haven't. Thank you for the question, Senator. I hadn't thought about that. I think that's a good question, a fair question. I think the intent of the bill is for personal use vehicles, and if we need to tweak that language, look at that a little bit, I think that would be something that we could definitely look at. Thank you,
Senator Richardson.
Representative Griffey, thank you so much for bringing this forward and kind of carrying the weight of this. Obviously, sitting here with Representative Walker, we represent Fort Campbell in our backyard. Between 300 to 400 soldiers transition out of that installation every month. It's one of the highest retention installations. Unfortunately, they're not retained in Kentucky. Right. And I think this goes a long way, and I agree with you, and I appreciate you mentioning it, that this probably has a pretty low cost impact, if any, because I think a lot of these vehicles are they keep their registration in their home state. But it certainly goes a long way in waving the flag that we're open for business for veterans and for active duty here in Kentucky. So I just want to say thank you for doing this, and I look forward to supporting you in this measure in the future.
Thank you, sir.
Senator Reed.
Thanks, Representative Griffey. I just wanted to say I appreciate this bill, and I wish I could run it from the Senate, but it's definitely a House bill. And, I served all over the country, lived in many different states, Alaska, Hawaii, Virginia Beach. And when I moved back to Kentucky, I actually had a vehicle that I bought in Alaska. And I'd been to 2 other states and lived there. And when I went to register that vehicle, I got a bill for about $1,500. And for a new guy coming off of active duty back in the civilian world, that was a kick in the teeth. Because I had to come up with it or I couldn't drive my truck. So, I appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Representative Griffey, I've encountered similar situations as Senator Reed's with families that are coming into Fort Knox. And my understanding is we have compacts with several other states in which we do waive this, but it is both ways. One of the states that we do not, and one of the reasons I was wanted to bring this forward a few years ago when I first arrived, was Georgia. Mm-hmm. And with Fort Knox sending all of our armored divisions to Fort Benning, and now we see a lot of folks coming from Fort Benning to Human Resources at Fort Knox. We see this. And I understand we have these compacts going both ways with some states. I don't want that to be a barrier, regardless of what Georgia does. I want Kentucky to be veteran-friendly, active duty-friendly. I want them to reside here and retire here. Mm-hmm. And so I support this, your efforts here, and I hope we can see this move forward here in this next session. So thank you for what you're doing, because the cost savings to our active duty and their families, if a family of 4 come in here with 4 vehicles, you think that $1,500 cost you, mm-hmm. multiply it. These families are having to make decisions on how many cars they're going to actually use while they're here, and we don't want that. We want them to be welcomed here. So thank you again, sir. I appreciate your patience today. I know you've been waiting patiently for a long time. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chairman.
All right. With that said, is there any other comments for the committee today before we adjourn? All right. Do I have a motion for? Oh, Senator Reed. I'm sorry, Senator Smith.
Yeah, I just want to be recognized. I came in a little late for a roll call. So.
Thank you. Duly noted. All right. At this time, do I have a motion for adjournment? All right. We have a second. Please don't forget, we will meet again.